Hi, this is Green Philosophy. Today I'm going to be sharing with you world capitalism is collapsing. Marx was right. The highlights from the Revolutionary Communists of America presentation. These are the quotes that I thought were the most impactful. China has the largest active duty military in the world with 2,200,000 active duty soldiers. Russia has more nuclear warheads than the United States. Trump and Farage and Keir Starmer, they have to discuss rhetoric that appeals to workers about bringing back jobs. In reality, they need to govern over a large proletariat while maximizing their profits, cutting into workers' living standards, and avoiding revolution. They have the American Pope trying to help them with that. What is the program of the ruling class globally? They have to cut the debt, reduce the cost of labor in each country, privatize social programs. It is a war against the working class. Once the working class starts to mobilize, they will realize how powerful they are. 80% of the population in Serbia are in the streets supporting the students. Can you imagine that erupting in the United States, in Germany, or in France, with the traditions that they have? You can only squeeze the working class so far. The tariff war is an education in what I said before. The world market is not big enough for everybody. The only way one capitalist power can increase its share is to extract the surplus value out of other places. When the pie is growing for everybody, it doesn't matter if your share declines. However, if the pie is shrinking for everybody, you have to reorient. When the pie stops growing, the only way you can get a bigger slice is by making the slice smaller for others. That is what the tariff war expresses. The last time this was done, it provoked the Great Depression. The fact that the United States turned to protectionism is an indication of its weakness, not of its strength. The problem with the United States deciding to trade less with China is it is destabilizing for the whole world. A European Union report said that the EU plus the United States, their trade of goods reached 1.6 trillion in 2023. U.S. exports to the EU support 2.3 million jobs in the United States. A trade war between the United States and Europe will lead to massive cuts in jobs for both. The inflationary effects of tariffs will have the opposite effect from what workers who voted for them intended. The bourgeois are putting pressure on Trump to avoid tariffs, to avoid a major world economic downturn. The conflict between India and Pakistan reflects the priorities between the bourgeoisie. Locally, it is reflected in the war in Ukraine, Russia versus the United States. All are conflicts between the major powers for spheres of influence who want access to markets and to profits. The Israeli bourgeoisie want to expand into the territories of Palestine. They are literally starving the Palestinian people to death. This could destabilize the Middle East. If it leads to a war in Iran, it could destabilize the entire world. Even there, you see a conflict between Trump and Netanyahu on how to proceed. Free Palestine. We've never seen a world capitalism with this size of working class. Politically speaking, in the advanced capitalist countries, we have a swing towards the far right, or populism. This can also include the fascist English Defense League. Big hopes are being placed on the right, and at the same time, big disappointment is going to come. That will prepare a swing to the left. Die Linke in Germany stood on the question of rent In the United States, if a party stood for a rent of no more than 30% of your wages, every young person would vote for that left party. There was a big growth in the youth vote for Die Linke. Die Linke received 25% of the youth vote and 34% of the young women vote. There is a huge potential on the left when something is offered that is an alternative. However, lesser evilism with Merz strengthens the right. Communists are for a united front with worker organizations, but not with the liberal bourgeois. What's coming is a big period in the history of class struggle. And what I love so much about this presentation with revolutionary communism is they basically said if you cap rent at 30%, you can expect the left to win elections. These have been the highlights from World Capitalism is Collapsing. Marx was right by the revolutionary communists of America. I look forward to your questions and comments.